reaching the point where staying still no longer feels possible. They are not only feeling this in private anymore, the heart has crossed into love, and the pressure to do something real about it is building fast. So let us begin. The first card is the Three of Cups. And wow, this is such a beautiful opening because right away it tells me that what pulled this person in was never only attraction. There is joy here, ease here, emotional warmth here, and the feeling that being around you makes life itself feel lighter. For many of you, this person did not expect friendship energy to hit them this strongly. They may have expected chemistry. They may have expected a spark. But what surprised them is that you also feel safe, fun, and naturally close in a way that gets into the heart much deeper than simple desire ever could. The Three of Cups is the card of shared happiness. So I feel like one of the biggest reasons this person has fallen so hard is that they do not only crave you, they genuinely enjoy you. They like your energy, they like your mind, they like your company. They like the feeling of emotional brightness that comes into the room when you are there. I also feel like this card says you bring out a side of them that feels more alive, more relaxed, more open, more spontaneous, more able to laugh, soften, and breathe without forcing anything. And that matters because once a person starts associating somebody with emotional relief as well as attraction, the connection becomes much harder to dismiss. For some of you, this person has quietly realized that what they want from you is not only passion, they want companionship. They want the feeling of being able to talk to you, laugh with you, check in with you, share ordinary things with you, and still feel that spark moving underneath all of it. And that combination is exactly why the heart has become so serious. The Three of Cups also tells me they may have started missing the atmosphere of you. Not only your face, not only your body, not only your voice, but the way your presence changes emotional space around them. The feeling that things are warmer, easier, and more emotionally colorful when your energy is near. That kind of missing grows quietly, but it grows deep. For many of you, this person may have tried to tell themselves that it was just liking you, just enjoying your energy, just feeling a bond, just appreciating how natural the connection felt. But the more they kept returning to those feelings, the more obvious it became that something much bigger had been building underneath the comfort. I am also getting that one of the reasons they are deciding to act is because the bond feels emotionally mutual and potential. They may sense that you are not just some fantasy they projected onto. There is real warmth here, real resonance here, real emotional reciprocity in the energy, and that makes the whole thing feel more possible and more dangerous to ignore at the same time. For some of you, they are beginning to understand that the heart does not only choose based on intensity. Sometimes it chooses where it feels most nourished. Sometimes it chooses where joy feels easy. Sometimes it chooses the person who makes the soul feel less alone while also making the body and heart come alive. And that seems to be exactly what this bond has become for them. The deeper message with this first card is this. They did not only fall in love with your beauty or with a certain moment or with one flash of attraction. They fell in love with the feeling of you as a whole experience, the laughter, the ease, the emotional lightness, the closeness, the warmth, and the simple joy of your presence. And I feel Spirit wants you to hear that first before we go into anything heavier, because if you miss the friendship and happiness layer of this bond, then you miss why the feeling became so strong. This is not a person reacting only to longing. This is a person reacting to the discovery that being close to you feels right in more than one way at once. For many of you, that is exactly what made the feeling impossible to keep casual. It is one thing to be attracted to someone. It is another thing entirely to feel like they could also be your comfort, your smile, your emotional safe place, and your favorite energy to come home to. The heart treats that very differently. It gets serious. That is why this opening feels so alive already. Because the love here is not built on one note, it is layered with friendship, delight, ease, and the kind of emotional resonance that makes a person start imagining you in much bigger places than they were ready to admit at first. And once that starts happening, action stops feeling like a random risk. It starts feeling like the next honest step. Okay, so let us move deeper into this now because I want to see what makes the action feel so close, so hard for them to hold back any longer. The next card is the Ace of Wands, and wow, this is where everything starts catching fire. The Ace of Wands says the feeling is no longer passive. It is no longer something they can file away, intellectualize, or keep in a neat private space without it pressing against the walls of their life. There is urgency here, desire here, initiative here, and the sense that the heart is now asking for movement instead of more delay. For many of you, this person has reached that stage where wanting to see what happens has become stronger than pretending nothing needs to happen at all. The Ace of Wands is not subtle. It is the spark that says, do something, say something, try something. Stop standing still in front of what you know is alive. I also feel like this card says your energy has been waking them up in waves. They may be fine for a while, distracted for a while, telling themselves they can keep managing this, and then all of a sudden something about you hits again. That pattern matters because it tells me this is not a mood, it is a living current that keeps returning until it is acknowledged. For some of you, they have been fighting the impulse to reach out after moments where your energy felt vivid to them. Maybe they saw something that reminded them of you. Maybe they heard your name. Maybe they saw a picture. Maybe they simply woke up feeling you strongly. The Ace of Wands makes me feel the desire is no longer only emotional. It is active. It is kinetic. It is asking for expression in real time. This card can also show somebody beginning to imagine a beginning instead of only revisiting the past. And that is because the energy is not only stuck in memory here, I feel like they are asking themselves what would happen if they truly stepped forward. Now, what would happen if they stopped circling the feeling and finally let themselves move toward it? What would happen if they let attraction and affection turn into actual contact? What would happen if you answered? For many of you, there is physical chemistry in this card too, but what makes it so powerful is that the chemistry is attached to emotional meaning, not separated from it. They do not only want closeness because they are attracted, they want closeness because the attraction has become fused with feeling, and that combination is what is making action feel inevitable. I also feel like this person may be surprisingly nervous because of that. When desire is attached to something real, the courage required becomes much bigger. The Ace of Wands is also the card of courage arriving in flashes. So I feel like they may have moments where they suddenly think, enough. I am doing this. I am not waiting anymore. I am not hiding anymore. That is one reason the action may feel close, but not perfectly predictable. The readiness is rising in surges, not in one smooth line, and one strong surge may be all it takes. For some of you, this person is being affected by the idea that the window may not stay open forever. That thought can intensify the Ace of Wands energy a lot if they believe too much time could pass, or that somebody else could move into your life, or that the chance could narrow. The impulse to act gets hotter. This is the kind of card that says desire does not like waiting once it sees the possibility of loss. I am also getting that they do not only want to contact you, they want to feel the energy move. They want proof that this is alive. They want to know whether the spark they feel can actually ignite something between you in the open. And that is why the card is so important here. It is not only about wanting, it is about initiation. The feeling is trying to turn itself into something real now. So the deeper message with this card is this. They are not only in love quietly, they are being pushed by that love toward movement. The spark has become too strong to sit under a lid forever, and the heart is beginning to see action as relief instead of risk. For many of you, this is the moment in the reading where the longing turns into a decision point. They are nearing the threshold where doing nothing feels more painful than finally trying, and I feel Spirit wants you to know that the heat of this card is not careless. It is purposeful. It is saying they want a beginning, not just another cycle of fantasy. They want to stop imagining the possibility and actually touch it with one real step. That is why the energy feels brighter now, faster now, and much more willing to interrupt their old habit of waiting. The heart is not only full, it is ready to move. And I feel like once they cross that line, the truth may come out faster than they expect. Because the flame here is not fading, it is gathering itself for a beginning, and their heart knows it by now. Now let us go further into why the feeling has become so difficult for them to turn away from, because love can be strong and still stay hidden for a long time unless something deeper roots it. The next card is the Seven of Pentacles, and this tells me the bond has been growing in them slowly, quietly, and longer than they first admitted to themselves. This card matters because it says what they feel did not appear in one dramatic rush and disappeared just as quickly. It has been building, it has been taking root, it has been sitting inside them, getting stronger through time, memory, distance, and reflection. For many of you, this person has looked at this connection repeatedly, wondering why it kept mattering when they thought it would eventually fade. The Seven of Pentacles says they have been tending this in private even while acting uncertain on the outside, and that is a different thing from passing attraction. This is investment. I also feel like this card shows somebody realizing that their heart keeps returning to the same place for a reason. They may have tried to move their focus somewhere else. They may have tried to bury themselves in routines, responsibilities, distractions, or practical matters. But underneath all of that, the feeling kept growing its own roots. For some of you, what changed everything is that they noticed the feeling was not temporary. Days passed, weeks passed, maybe longer. And instead of settling into less, the connection kept becoming more meaningful. The Seven of Pentacles is the card of looking at what has grown and realizing it cannot honestly be called small anymore. That realization can make a person serious because once they see that the heart has invested itself over time, the question changes from what is this to what am I going to do about this? And I think that is where they are beginning to stand now. I am also getting that this card says they may have regret around waiting too long. Not only because time has passed, but because the more they allowed the feeling to deepen in silence, the harder it became to imagine approaching you casually. They know the emotional truth now has weight. They know it asks for sincerity. For many of you, this person has pictured a future and then caught themselves doing it. They may have imagined the simple things, the ordinary rhythm of having you in their life, and then realized the imagining had become too natural to dismiss. That can be startling for somebody who thought they still had more distance from the truth than they actually did. The Seven of Pentacles also says they are evaluating everything now. Not only their feelings, but their timing, their courage, their hesitation, and the cost of staying still. They are looking at what has already grown between you and asking whether they are going to keep standing back from it or finally try to meet it in the open. For some of you, one of the hidden truths here is that they feel they have already given too much of their inner world to this love to keep pretending it is only a possibility. The heart has invested, hope has invested, and that kind of investment starts asking for an honest outcome. It does not want to stay suspended forever. I also feel like Spirit is saying this person is becoming aware that time by itself is not neutral. Time either grows something or starves it. And here, time has grown the feeling. It has made it deeper, more mature, more connected to the idea of real life instead of only emotional electricity. And that is why action now feels less impulsive and more necessary. The deeper message with this card is this. They have already built too much meaning around you in private to stay emotionally casual. Their heart has been watering this connection even in silence. And now they are starting to realize that if they do nothing forever, they will still have to live with the fact that they let something real grow inside them without giving it a chance to breathe. For many of you, this card also brings patience, but not the passive kind. It is the kind of patience where somebody knows something valuable is here and starts understanding that it deserves thoughtful action, not one more cycle of delay. They are no longer only watching what has grown. They are beginning to feel responsible for it. That is a different emotional position from earlier hesitation, because now the love is not only exciting, it is meaningful. It has a history inside them. It has depth inside them. It has a lived reality in their emotional world. And once a connection reaches that stage, the soul usually stops being satisfied with imagination alone. So the deeper confession here is that they have been growing this quietly for much longer than you know. And now that they can see the scale of what is already rooted there, action starts feeling less like a dramatic leap and more like the next honest step. The heart has already invested too much to keep calling this small. All right, so let us move into what makes this turn from feeling into movement, because love can deepen for a long time before a person finally decides they have to act. The next card is the Chariot, and wow, this tells me the inner debate is starting to lose its grip. The Chariot is a decision card. It is the moment where the person understands that if they keep splitting themselves in two, they will keep hurting themselves in the same place. And I feel that is exactly what has been happening here. For many of you, this person has been pulled in opposite directions. One side of them wanting to protect themselves, keep control, and stay inside fear. The other side wanting to move, speak, reach, and stop pretending the heart is less involved than it really is. The Chariot says one of those sides is finally getting stronger. I also feel like this card says they are tired of being passive around something so important. They are tired of watching their feelings grow while their actions stay behind. They are tired of carrying the truth privately while the outer story remains unfinished. And when a person gets tired of their own hesitation, momentum can arrive suddenly. The Chariot is not soft in the way some cards are. It says choose. Move, commit to a direction, stop letting fear and desire drag you in two separate lines forever. And that is a huge part of what is happening now. The emotional truth has become stronger than the comfort of staying stalled. For some of you, they have already had moments where they felt this surge of certainty, moments where they thought, I cannot keep sitting here. I cannot keep replaying this without doing anything. I cannot keep knowing what I feel and still acting as if indecision is somehow safer. That kind of inner speech belongs to the Chariot, and it feels very present. I am also getting that there may be a protective side to this action. Not protective in a cold way, but in a way that says, if this matters this much, I need to stop leaving it exposed to distance, silence, and uncertainty. The Chariot wants to take hold of what feels valuable instead of just standing beside it, wishing it would resolve itself. For many of you, this person is deciding that if there is risk, they would rather take the risk of movement than keep suffering the cost of no movement. And that is major shift, because earlier energy may have been all heart and no traction. This card changes that. It says traction is arriving. Direction is arriving. The will to move is beginning to line up with the truth of what the heart already knows. The Chariot also says they may be more emotionally disciplined than they look. They may not come in falling apart. They may not come in spilling every single feeling immediately. This card can approach with self-control, but the self-control is no longer being used to stay away. It is being used to help them actually move. For some of you, they are deciding that clarity matters more than preserving distance. And that can be a hard moment, because once a person enters Chariot energy, they have to admit they are no longer content to drift. They are no longer content to let the story stay half-formed. They want to know what is possible, and they want to know by trying, not by guessing. I also feel like Spirit is saying they are beginning to choose you inwardly before the outer action fully arrives. That is important because the decision often starts in the soul before it becomes visible in behavior. The Chariot says the inner alignment is happening, and once a person really starts aligning with the truth of what they want, the outward step usually follows sooner than expected. The deeper message with this card is this: they are not only feeling love anymore, they are getting ready to back that feeling with movement. They may still be nervous. They may still be calculating timing. They may still be deciding how to approach. But the old emotional split is weakening, and that means action is no longer some distant possibility. It is becoming the honest path forward. For many of you, they know this will change the shape of everything. One move, one message, one conversation, one clear step could shift the whole energy between you. But strangely, I do not feel that scares them the way it once did. I feel like the fear of never acting is starting to look heavier than the fear of finally trying. That is why this card feels so strong. It says the person who once lingered in thought is beginning to gather themselves. The heart has spoken, the feeling has rooted. And now the will is stepping into the room, saying it is time to move this love out of pure emotion and into lived reality. And I feel that once they truly commit to that inner direction, the outer hesitation may fall away much faster than even they expect. Because when the Chariot turns towards truth, it does not usually stay parked for long. It starts rolling and the whole story begins to change with it. Okay, so let us see what kind of life energy this love is trying to move toward. Because when somebody chooses action from the heart, the next question is what they actually want to create. The next card is the Queen of Pentacles, and wow, this tells me the desire here is not only intense, it is deeply nurturing. The Queen of Pentacles says this person does not only want a moment with you, they want your presence woven into life in a way that feels steady, warm, and real. For many of you, what they have fallen in love with is not only your beauty or your emotional depth, it is the feeling that life softens around you. There is something grounding in your energy, something that feels nourishing, comforting, and quietly life-giving. And once a person associates somebody with that, the bond begins to carry a whole different kind of value. I also feel like this card says they imagine caring for you in practical ways, showing up, checking in, protecting your peace, making your day easier, creating space for your nervous system to relax, being dependable instead of just emotionally expressive. And that matters because it shows the love is reaching for embodiment, not only confession. The Queen of Pentacles can also show me somebody who sees you as rare because you hold softness and strength together. There may be something about you that feels nurturing without losing dignity, affectionate without becoming fragile, grounded without becoming cold. And I think that combination is part of why this person feels both deeply moved and deeply serious. For some of you, they have started realizing that what they want with you is not chaos, but consistency. Not a whirlwind that burns bright and breaks, but a love that can sit at the table, share the day, survive the seasons, and still feel rich. That is a powerful realization because it means the soul is asking for something sustainable, not just something intoxicating. I am also getting that the Queen of Pentacles says they value what you bring to emotional space. You may make them feel safer, more anchored, more human, more received. And because of that, the idea of having you in their life stops being abstract. It starts becoming linked to wellness, emotional health, and the kind of everyday peace they may not even have known they were craving. For many of you, one of the hidden truths here is that they may already imagine what it would feel like to take care of the bond with more maturity than they have shown before, to water it, to protect it, to be gentler with it, to stop leaving it exposed to neglect or uncertainty. And that is a difference from only feeling love in the abstract. The Queen of Pentacles also says that your value in their eyes is not fleeting. It is not based on surface mood. It is not based on temporary excitement. It is based on substance, warmth, and the feeling that your energy adds something deeply meaningful to the life around it. And that is one reason the heart has become more devoted instead of cooling off over time. For some of you, this card brings the wish to build home feeling, a safe rhythm, a place where both love and friendship can breathe without pressure. And I think that is one reason the phrase all in feels so believable here. Because the desire is not only for a declaration, it is for continuity, it is for life. The deeper message with this card is this. They are not only deciding to act because they are overwhelmed, they are deciding to act because the love now feels valuable enough to protect, nurture, and bring into a more grounded form. That is a different kind of action than impulse. It is the beginning of intentionality. For many of you, I feel they are beginning to see that the bond deserves more gentleness than fear once allowed, and that may soften the way they approach. They may still be nervous, yes, but the energy underneath it is caring. It is considerate. It wants to move toward something beautiful without bruising it in the process. I also feel like Spirit wants you to know that this love is beginning to mature out of fantasy and into stewardship. The heart is asking, how do I hold this well? How do I show care in ways that can be felt? How do I become a safe place instead of only a person with strong feeling? Those are Queen of Pentacles questions, and they matter. That is why this card feels reassuring. Because it says the action is not only about satisfying longing, it is about creating a warmer, steadier, more emotionally reliable experience of love. And once a person starts wanting that with you, the meaning of the whole bond deepens even more. For some of you, this is exactly why they can no longer dismiss what they feel, because the love has become practical in its longing. It wants to be useful, present, comforting, and true. And that kind of love does not stay hidden as easily because it keeps looking for ways to become part of real life instead of remaining a beautiful private ache. So let us close the reading by looking at what this love most wants to become if the action truly happens. Because love this deep always asks one last question. Can it be lived in peace? The final card is Temperance. Temperance says the deepest desire here is not only to rush in and spill everything. It is to bring love into balance, into healing, and into a form that can hold both intensity and calm without tearing itself apart. For many of you, this person has learned enough from longing to know they do not only want a dramatic moment, they want something that can settle into truth, something that can breathe, something that can let love, friendship, passion, and emotional safety stand in the same space instead of fighting with one another. I also feel like this card says you have become linked to healing in their heart, not because you are here to save them, but because loving you has shown them what emotional harmony could actually feel like, and that can change everything for somebody used to intensity without peace. For some of you, this person is beginning to understand that what they want is not only closeness, they want rightness. They want the kind of connection where both people can stay themselves and still meet in a shared center. They want something that does not force the soul to split in two. And that is why the action feels thoughtful now. Temperance also says the message they carry may come with softness, not because the feeling is weak, but because it has ripened. The love here has passed through longing, fear, private realization, and the beginning of courage. Now it wants to arrive in a way that creates less damage and more truth than whatever silence came before. For many of you, they are no longer only asking whether they should act. They are asking how to act in a way that honors the bond, how to speak in a way that does not spill chaos over something precious. How to approach in a way that leaves room for honesty, gentleness, and the rebuilding of trust, if trust is what the moment asks for. I am also getting that this card says your presence in their life feels like medicine, not because everything is easy, but because you draw them toward a more integrated version of themselves. They may love the way you soften them, steady them, or help them feel more aligned with who they actually want to be. And once a person links someone with that kind of inner harmony, the wish to keep them close becomes sacred. For some of you, the hidden confession in this card is that they do not only want your love, they want your world near theirs. They want your energy in their daily rhythm. They want the kind of closeness that changes the emotional climate of life itself. Because this is not only about relief from longing, it is about creating a truer atmosphere to live in. Temperance can also show patience with purpose. So if the action comes gently, do not mistake gentle for small. Gentle can be deep. Gentle can carry huge feeling. Gentle can be the way love arrives when it has finally learned that force is not the same as truth. And that lesson is part of what they have been growing into. The deeper message with this card is this: they do not only want to tell you they love you, they want to create a different emotional future from the one shaped by silence, fear, or delay. They want something more healing than that, more honest than that, more sustainable than that. And that desire for peace inside love is one of the strongest signs that what they feel has matured. For many of you, this is also your advice. If the action comes, notice what settles. Notice what calms the body instead of only electrifying it. Notice what sounds clear, what feels sincere, what leaves room for truth to breathe. Temperance says real love will not ask you to abandon your center in order to believe it. It will invite your center closer, and I feel Spirit wants to leave you with that reassurance. Yes, this person has fallen in love. Yes, they are deciding to move. Yes, the heart is trying to become visible now. But the highest version of this is not only a confession, it is a confession that leads toward emotional balance instead of more turbulence. That is why Temperance is such a beautiful closing card. Because it says the soul does not only want to rush into your life, it wants to belong there in a way that creates more peace, more mutuality, and more truth than the past has allowed. And once love starts wanting that, it becomes much harder for the person carrying it to stay hidden for long. So the final message is this: the feeling is real, the action is rising, and the deeper purpose of it is not only to be known, it is to be lived in a way that matches the beauty and seriousness of what has already grown between you. That is where this whole reading has been pointing, and that is why the heart no longer wants to wait in silence any longer now. It is to bring love into balance, into healing, and into a form that can hold both intensity and calm without tearing itself apart. For many of you, this person has learned enough from longing to know they do not only want a dramatic moment, they want something that can settle into truth, something that can breathe, something that can let love, friendship, passion, and emotional safety stand in the same space instead of fighting with one another. I also feel like this card says you have become linked to healing in their heart, not because you are here to save them, but because loving you has shown them what emotional harmony could actually feel like, and that can change everything for somebody used to intensity without peace. For some of you, this person is beginning to understand that what they want is not only closeness, they want rightness. They want the kind of connection where both people can stay themselves and still meet in a shared center. They want something that does not force the soul to split in two. And that is why the action feels thoughtful now. Temperance also says the message they carry may come with softness, not because the feeling is weak, but because it has ripened. The love here has passed through longing, fear, private realization, and the beginning of courage. Now it wants to arrive in a way that creates less damage and more truth than whatever silence came before. For many of you, they are no longer only asking whether they should act. They are asking how to act in a way that honors the bond, how to speak in a way that does not spill chaos over something precious. How to approach in a way that leaves room for honesty, gentleness, and the rebuilding of trust, if trust is what the moment asks for. I am also getting that this card says your presence in their life feels like medicine, not because everything is easy, but because you draw them toward a more integrated version of themselves. They may love the way you soften them, steady them, or help them feel more aligned with who they actually want to be. And once a person links someone with that kind of inner harmony, the wish to keep them close becomes sacred. For some of you, the hidden confession in this card is that they do not only want your love, they want your world near theirs. They want your energy in their daily rhythm. They want the kind of closeness that changes the emotional climate of life itself. Because this is not only about relief from longing, it is about creating a truer atmosphere to live in. Temperance can also show patience with purpose. So if the action comes gently, do not mistake gentle for small. Gentle can be deep. Gentle can carry huge feeling. Gentle can be the way love arrives when it has finally learned that force is not the same as truth. And that lesson is part of what they have been growing into. The deeper message with this card is this: they do not only want to tell you they love you, they want to create a different emotional future from the one shaped by silence, fear, or delay. They want something more healing than that, more honest than that, more sustainable than that. And that desire for peace inside love is one of the strongest signs that what they feel has matured. For many of you, this is also your advice. If the action comes, notice what settles. Notice what calms the body instead of only electrifying it. Notice what sounds clear, what feels sincere, what leaves room for truth to breathe. Temperance says real love will not ask you to abandon your center in order to believe it. It will invite your center closer, and I feel Spirit wants to leave you with that reassurance. Yes, this person has fallen in love. Yes, they are deciding to move. Yes, the heart is trying to become visible now. But the highest version of this is not only a confession, it is a confession that leads toward emotional balance instead of more turbulence. That is why temperance